And welcome, Damon Mochetto, to the show.
Hi, Maggie. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, tell me what got you going into the direction that you're in now.
Sure. So I started out in the health and fitness field. So basically all things fitness early on in my career. That's where I started. So that would be, personal training, nutrition coaching, that type of thing. And from there, I just transitioned into more of a mindset, lifestyle coaching. It still combines all of that, but long story short is what I found was I spent all my time studying physiology, nutrition, things like that to help my clients. And the more I worked with my clients, the more I figured out that mindset just played a huge role in that. And so I spent a lot of time studying techniques too on that side of things, and combined the two. So that's how I got into it. I got into it by accident. Health and fitness by accident. I went to college to play baseball. I got hurt, and I needed something to do. One of those deals where I was there to play sports, and I was like, oh, I guess I need something. I need to actually do something. So yeah, that's how I transitioned into it, and I've been there ever since.
So, how do you help your clients with mindset?
Yeah, it depends on where I'm meeting them in terms of where they're at. But like to give you an example, it could be self-sabotage. It could be working on their values, their beliefs. A lot of times it's a belief system that's the issue, especially with people that may have struggled with their weight, for example.
Mm.
It's a belief that I'm this person, this is who I am. So it's kind of their identity. So you kind of have to, you want to unravel that, get them to recognize that, and then work on steps to actually change that. Because it's not something that's easy to, if someone has this identity for, their whole adult life, let's say, and let's say, I don't know, let's just say they're 30, 40 years old, and that's who they've been. It's not like you fix that on one phone call. So, not that I'm fixing anybody, but they're really, at the end of the day, they're fixing themselves. They're really coming up with understanding why they do what they do, and then stop doing what they do and replace that with something that's more positive to get them going in the right direction.
And that's the hard part, right? It's hard to change a habit that you've been doing forever.
Oh, that's huge. You've heard this before. We're 95% of the habit. That's what we do. So, and if they've been doing that habit forever, it's a challenge. So, interrupting that pattern that they've been doing is where you need to start and then replace it.
Well, what I find I'm a spiritual life coach and teach meditation. And what I find is with my clients, it's to really understand that you may have inherited some of these beliefs, as well as you may have been handed them down from your ancestors as well.
Sure.
Or in the shamanic practices, it's really about, they call it domestication. So how we were brought up and raised, and helping clients understand that just because we've figured out what's going on and what triggers it doesn't mean it's ever going away. It just means that your awareness is the most important part about it.
Yeah, I think that's the key. What you just said, the awareness is a really important part. Because a lot of times they're unaware of that. Like, oh, it's like that. I didn't, when you point it out or you get them to understand it, they're like, I never looked at it that way. I never thought of it. I never saw it. And that's usually eye-opening for them.
Yeah, that's the key. So where are you located?
I live in Florida, St. Augustine, Florida.
Okay. And are most of your clients in Florida, or you meet with people all over?
Yeah, all over. Actually, to be honest with you, most of my clients are online. So yeah.
Yeah.
Not going way back. I'm actually originally from Maine. So I used to do, that was all local. There was kind of pre-internet. So, everything was local. And then, I moved to Florida, actually Naples, Florida. I lived there for 15 years. I had a training studio and nutrition company down there. Then I sold it, and then I went everything's been online since 2017.
Yeah. So what do you think is the biggest stumbling block for some of your clients? And I know we all get in our own way, but do you see any patterns?
Like in regards to like anything specific or just in general?
Just in
Like,
general, I mean, especially after COVID, right? Were
mhm.
people taking it on more seriously because they were alone or on their own, or was it harder because they weren't able to get to the gym or whatever?
Yeah, I think it was worse actually. So, yeah, I think it for a couple. So back to the original question, like what are they running? I think a couple things that I see common is like I like to like get them to understand like what their values are, like what's your value, what's your top priority for you in your life. Like, so you may say, again, we'll use weight loss as an example. It's just easy example, but it could be health, it could be improving a relationship, it could be anything. But if that's not important, they kind of quote want it, but it's just really not part of their value system. Like it's not a top priority, like a top three value for them. It's going to be hard for them to follow through on the steps to actually lose weight, right? Because it's just not important to them. They might quote want it, but they really don't. It's not important to them really on a subconscious level. So kind of uncovering what their values are, if they value, making that a top three, at least top five value really usually helps. So that's the number one thing. And then this second thing comes down to what we mentioned before is having a belief for that identity. I just don't believe I can do it. I've been overweight for 10, 20 years. This is just too big of a hill to climb for me. I can't change, that type of thing. That's a belief system that they kind of have ingrained. So those are the two things. And then coming back to the COVID thing, I think COVID was everybody kind of hunkered down in the beginning for sure, and it was, if you think about it, we were surrounded by like stay home, order fast food, have it delivered to your house. They close gyms, don't do this. For those of us lucky enough to have a home gym and whatnot, that's great. Or, or in a warm enough climate where they could go out and walk or whatever. Sure, that was okay, but that isn't everybody. So I think it was a challenge for sure. So a lot of people's health suffered, and you've seen this. I'm sure you've seen the statistics on that over the last COVID. Like the amount of weight that was gained was it was pretty significant. So that's not good for anyone's health in the long term.
Yeah, yeah. So what is it that you think helps bring about the breakthrough for any one of your clients?
Uh, well, what I see is like there's two things that usually like that trigger, I guess, if you want, like when they actually decide, someone actually, you can see it when you're having a conversation with them. They just decide, I'm done. I'm going to do this no matter what. They make that decision and then they commit to it. And there's a commit because they've decided, and then they're like, I'm committed to this. This is what I'm going to do. I know it's going to be a challenge. I know I'm going to have roadblocks, but I'm going to continue on and I'm not going to quit. Whereas the exact opposite is opposite of that is that people that they never decide and they never commit. They're kind of like they're always straddling that fence. It's I want to lose weight, but everything else comes as an excuse to not go to the gym, not eat right, not be healthy, make healthy choices, get enough sleep, get sunlight, things like that. Drink enough water.
Yeah, yeah. And what's the average age of your client?
It's usually over 40.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that are starting to slow down a little.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like most of my clients are like just professionals, like in there. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially like entrepreneurs are typically my clients because they put everything into their business and then they let their just everything go on the health side, that type of thing. The stress
Right.
levels go through the roof. So that's a lot. I mean, being an entrepreneur in the past, I can completely relate to. I know what having to hit a payroll is like, and I know I know like all the stresses that comes with that. So I understand it. But I also know that you have to deal with it. You have to take care of yourself first, or you're going to be useless to your business, your family, anyone who's relying on you. So
Well, and chronic stress puts its own issues, puts its own trouble onto your health.
yeah.
Not just the weight, just the stress of it all, and living in that chronic state of, fight and flight all the time.
Oh yeah, it's
Just
terrible. Yeah.
just trying, especially during COVID when nobody had any certainty, and we don't like uncertainty.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, that's an interesting point too about like stress. Like a lot of times people will come to me that say again, like they maybe they want to lose weight, get healthy, whatever, and they're expecting me to recommend some like crazy workout or something like that, and I'm like, you're so stressed out, the worst thing you could do is work out. So actually I need you to go for a walk for like 10 minutes every day and maybe like do some meditation, make sure we're drinking a lot of water. Yeah, that's where I would start with that person, because if they're already stressed out, the last thing they want to do is go do a boot camp class, and that's what they do typically. So I like
And
to call
who
it like,
isn't stressed at this point,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Very
yeah,
few of
exactly.
us have a pretty even life that's balanced.
Right, right. And so yeah, I don't, so definitely when I make that assessment, that's the last, it frustrates a lot of those people too, because they, in their mind, they think I should be, really sweating it up, killing myself at the gym, or whatever it may be. And it's just like, no, that's, talking them into like, listen, just trust me on this. That's the last thing you want to be doing right now. We'll get to increasing your intensity here or there, but that's the last
Yeah,
thing you
but
need to
see,
do.
therein comes the mindset, right? Because all of us, most of us in our society, especially, have been trained to do more, be more, have more, keep moving, stay busy, somehow attain, acquire.
Absolutely.
And so to ask somebody to not do that is totally counterintuitive.
Totally. Yeah. 100%. They look at you with like cross-eyed, like, what are you talking about? Like, you mean like take a break? I can't do that. I'm on 10
But
all the time.
yeah,
So,
so it's a much deeper conversation than
oh
weight
yeah.
or stress. It's really
Mhm.
about, how about you just be okay with you for starters,
Yeah.
no
Yeah. I
matter
think that's
what
the,
you weigh.
yeah, it doesn't, where are you starting from? Like where, cause you take, looking at it from the holistic, you do this, it's a
Yep.
whole, like, where are they starting as a person? And it's not about the physical. It's about, the mental, spiritual side. Like, how are they feeling? Where are they at? And you can tell when you're talking to someone who's just a ball of, hey, how you doing? And they're like
Yeah.
tight, they almost have fists while they're talking to you, because they're just stressed out in that fight or flight system all the time. And you're like,
Yeah.
all right, we need to calm down. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to figure out a way to do that and get you to relax a little bit. But you also said something interesting too, is like, most people can't be just quiet and take, a 20-minute break or an hour break. It's like they feel like if they're not busy all the time, they're not being productive, successful, meeting society standards, whatever you want to call it. And that's a challenge, because that's the majority of people.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you and I on the same page, I think, having this conversation, and they're like, "You're nuts," you know, you're crazy.
Well, or just that the thought never occurred,
Yeah.
right? To
Yep.
think about that, maybe I'm going about this a little backwards,
Yep.
that it isn't, that doing more isn't getting me any better or doing
Hmm.
anything differently for me.
Yeah. And do you find this, like, maybe like a lot of times they get to me, and maybe I wonder if they get to you, where they're actually at their last resort at this point. They know what they've been doing is just, if I keep going this way, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to crash. So I need help. I'll do whatever, and they're those people are more open, I think, sometimes, because they're like, okay, I'll do whatever at this point.
Well, none of us wake up when things are going well,
True. That's
right?
true.
We have to
Yeah.
be pushed to the wall, like you
Hmm.
and your injury ended your
Yeah.
baseball aspirations, right? So you did
Yeah.
something different. I think that's human nature, right? When we get pushed outside of our comfort zone, that's when we're either going to sink or swim.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's crazy to think that a lot of people, when you say outside of that comfort zone, is just relaxing.
Yeah. It's true. For me, mostly I see my clients are coming to me because they're tired of living Groundhog's Day,
Yeah.
that same professional daily life, or all of the same things over and over again, and really not being fulfilled or happy,
Hmm.
and not understanding how they can possibly make a shift, or that they have anything to do with making that shift. That's the
Hmm.
other thing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Because we as a society and as a culture tend to want to blame everyone else for our unhappiness.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a little tricky looking in that mirror.
Hmm.
So it's not for the faint at heart, to be sure.
No, it's not. I mean, personal responsibility is not everyone's favorite thing. Like actually having to take ownership. I think that's a thing. I guess a point I would make too is that people that take ownership of they own their, they recognize what's going on isn't working, but it's no one else's fault. I got to deal with, I need the help, and they're not blaming anybody else. They're much easier to work. I don't want to say easier to work with, but they get results faster, easier because they're willing to take that responsibility. And a lot of times sometimes people will come to me and there's excuses, there's different people in their life, different things that, not denying that might be challenges, but you have to take responsibility. You could say no to these people in this situation or whatever it is. So at the end of the day, it's their taking that responsibility and owning it makes a difference.
Well, and it doesn't have to just be about weight, right? The same
Mm-hmm.
could be said for someone who's addicted to drugs or alcohol or porn or video games or social
Anything.
media,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's all the same thing, right? It's so
Mm-hmm.
much easier to reach for a soothing something than it is
Yeah.
for me to look myself in the mirror.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I mean, most of the people come like if they do come to me for weight loss and they work with me long term, that's about a 6 week process, and then we're working on everything else. It's
Right.
more like it's life balance. It's what are we working over here, like how my job, my stress levels with here, handling leadership issues and stuff like that. And that's because to your point, it's all the same. So you can
Yeah.
apply it to whatever.
Well, understanding I'm trying to remember, Weezer has a song called the Sweater Song.
Yeah.
And when you hold on to the one thread, the
Hmm.
whole sweater unwinds, right?
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it's all interconnected and all interrelated. You can't
Yep.
separate the job from the weight. You just can't.
Mm-mm. No,
So
no.
yeah. So what is your 6 week program like?
Well, it's actually, I'm sorry, I said they maybe work with me for six
Oh,
weeks. It
okay.
just depends on, like, I usually take people will come on me 3 or 6 months is typically what
Ah,
I'll work with
okay.
people. So it's a minimum of 3 months to commit with me to like do, because I find like I'm not working on the quick fixes. It's got to take that, like, we got to sit down and work through this. And most people will work with me, like, they'll pick the 6 month option, and that's what we'll do. We'll work for 6 months, and we just start, where they're at, what are your goals? What's your expected outcomes? What are you looking to change? What do you want to improve? And we work from there. And if it is health, then it is nutrition or weight loss, then I'm going to, gear my expertise or whatever you want to call it towards that, help them with that for sure. But I mean, so for instance, like, yeah, I can make anyone, I don't mean to sound, braggadocious about that, but I mean, I did diets and training programs for my whole career, so that's pretty second nature to me. Um, and I can help, I can set that up, no problem. It's really working on the habits to help them follow through on that. That's really the key to that side of things. When we get there, it's like, okay, how, that's great. Here's your menu. Here's how you're going to eat. But how are you going to follow this? What are you going to be able to do? How are you going to make that stick?
Don't you think there's some point at which it kind of catches where they
Mm-hmm.
start to see results and then they go, yes, I'm going to keep
Yeah.
doing this?
Yes and no. Here's the key to that. The key to that is like following through. For what I tell people, and I write about this all the time, is like, if you have to lose weight, if that's what your goal is, if you have any type of weight to lose, like, you have to stick to something for 30 days. You have to see that, because most people will do it for 2 weeks. They'll do it for 2 weeks. Said, hey, I'm on this diet. I didn't lose any weight. Screw this. I'm not doing it. This is no fun. I'm going back to, drinking wine and cheese, eat, whatever. So, because your body has to adjust. There's a lot of physiological things going on, and we're trying to get things going again, so to speak. And you have to give your body time to adjust and adapt to certain things. You got water loss going on, you got muscle gain going on, you got all these different things going on. So you have to see it through at least typically 30 days is what I like to see. And that point, then they're like, all right, I'm on board. I get this. Yep, I'm seeing those results. It's great. And don't get me wrong, some people will be lucky enough where they have good genetics, good metabolism, where like 2 weeks they're seeing great results. Sure. But some people don't. And I know they will, but they have to see it through that time frame. And then it takes a little bit longer. And that's why I really focus on mindset and habits at that point.
Yeah. And that's why it isn't for sissies either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is the commitment to change,
Yeah.
or the commitment to ourselves, really.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of unfortunate too. I mean, I guess it's obviously what I do, but like at the same time, like I just wish we would have a better, as young people, have a better health I mean, I say this all the time. I've been doing this a long time, not to date myself, but, and the people that I worked with 15, 20 years ago, that they weren't in as bad a shape. They didn't have as much stress levels going on, as much weight to lose and actually when I made those changes, they saw results quicker because they had less stuff going on. I don't know how to
Less work
say
to
that.
do.
Yeah. And it's just because they let themselves, because we're just not healthy. We don't teach that at a young age anymore. It's just not about, we're sitting in front of screens all day and phones. There's less activity. The foods we eat are, not great. So, that's one of the challenges that I see
Well,
for
and
sure.
the evidence of childhood diabetes is astronomical.
It's insane.
That speaks volumes right there. And the amount of sugar that's added to absolutely everything we eat. I mean, you can almost
Everything.
not get away from it.
No, it's really difficult. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
I've tried to do a no sugar, no oil, no salt, SOS diet. And
SOS.
that is hard.
Yeah.
The oil, not so much, but the sugar and the salt in everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you eat anything that's in a package, it's going to have all of that. So,
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
Well, it doesn't even matter. It's salad dressing. It's any of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So how do people find you, Damon?
Actually, the easiest way is just go on my website. That's my hub, damonmochetto.com. And I have my social media there. I write a newsletter a couple times a week, and I do a lot of blogs on my website. So free content. Yeah.
Good. So it was a pleasure getting to know you and chatting with you. Sounds like we're kindred spirits in a lot of ways.
For sure.
And I hope first, before we let you go, what is your big tidbit of advice for those of us trying to live a life illuminated?
You know what? I think my big tidbit would be like, believe you can do anything, and whatever that voice in your head that's telling you that you can't, don't listen to that.
Yeah, that very dangerous neighborhood to be in alone up there.
100%. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting to know you a little bit.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.